Hello, my dear friends and family, operator.starsky here. As always, I'm so happy to see you guys there in the chat, all the familiar faces and some of the not really familiar faces. You probably know about Russian air incursion into Estonia and Poland today. Today, two groups of Russian fighter jets crossed borders of Estonia. They flew over Tallinn, and also they flew over an oil object on the Polish territory. And you probably also know about the drone strikes that took place in Romania, in Poland previous week. And most probably when you hear or see news updates about those, you ask yourself, what happens if the war comes actually into my country? What to expect? How will the life change? Because as you probably understand, there is not much hope that, for example, United States will be at this very stage helping you very much, even if you're a NATO country. So basically, Europe should rely on itself at this very moment. Of course, there are some supporters of the Russian terrorism, like Orban, Fico, AfD party in Germany, or MAGA movement in the United States, that will tell you that the best way to avoid the war with Russia is to be friends with Russia. But here's the thing, the only way to be friends with Russia is to allow Russia commit crimes, which means that if you want Russia to stop committing crimes, you must allow Russia to commit crimes, which doesn't work like that, because those two paragraphs self-eliminate. But today we will talk about a different topic, my friends. Today we will talk a bit about the civilian experience of being in the war zone. And I already explained the reason why I want to talk about that, because unfortunately I feel the same feeling and need to talk with you about this as in 2021, when I was making educational videos for Ukrainian citizens on what the war looks like, what the war feels like, what the artillery strikes feel like, and stuff like that. And back then in 2021, I was criticized. I was like destroyed in the social media every single day because of that, because people in Ukraine, where the hybrid war lasted almost 8 years at that point, people were writing angry comments saying, why do you escalate? Why are you scaring people? Why are you doing this, you bad person? Unfortunately, those advice that I was giving in my videos, unfortunately, people had to use them in real life just months later after they were published. Again, every war is different. Even back then when I talked about the war, it was a different war. It's not like the war that we see in 2025, which is even different from the war that we saw in 2023. But the main reason why I want to talk about this today is because we always fear things that we don't know. So my main goal of today's stream is to make you a bit more acquainted with what it feels like to be in the war. I tell you this, on 24th of February 2022, I woke up to the sounds of explosions. I realized that the war started, and psychologically to me it was probably like some kind of relief, because a week before that, during Russian military exercise in Belarus, all Russian statements, obvious Russian preparation for the invasion into Ukraine, all those strange movements in the occupied territories of Ukraine back in those days, people were, let's say, they were anxious. They didn't really know what to expect. And when the war finally started, we realized that at least now we understand that it started. At least now we know that it's going, all right? Because expectation was probably psychologically much heavier, much harder than the war itself. I cannot say that expectation was harder than, literally being on the front line at the position, but to some extent you had different sort of anxiety, right? So let's talk about this. And first of all, I would like to mention once again that every war is different. In 2014 until 2022, we had a different sort of war. It was a hybrid war where artillery was used, tanks were used, what else? Navy were also used because Russians captured several Ukrainian vessels. Also, terrorist attacks were used, including different bombs and stuff like that. And also mines, sabotage, all that stuff. Snipers, of course, reconnaissance and sabotage groups, of course, all that was present. What we faced in 2022 was aviation, something new, of course, helicopters, fighter jets, attack aircraft, bombers, all that stuff. Also strategic missiles, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, missiles shot from the land platforms from the Russian and Belarusian territory, and also missiles shot from the naval carriers, from submarines, from the battleships. For example, the Russian flagship Moskva that turned into a very big submarine, it was actually a missile-carrying ship. It had plenty of missiles on board, and it wasn't like an aircraft carrier, all right, like Nimitz, for example. No, it was a missile-carrying ship. And also we encountered such things as thermobaric charges, because even though Russia supplied terrorists on the Donbass with artillery, with MLRS, with all sorts of weaponry, but they never used thermobaric charges, the thermobaric artillery. Even though they had this TOS-1 Buratino, it was delivered to Donetsk, and actually OSCE observers from the United Nations that had a tour in the Donetsk Oblast, they accidentally spotted one. And the only place they're produced is Russia. Of course, the separatists, they were saying that no, we actually, as well as Russians, they were saying that no, we actually found all those tanks, all those BTRs, BMPs, all those weaponry. We found them in the salt mines. We dug them out. We were like digging coal, and we found like a tank, T80 or T90, right? But reality was TOS-1 Buratino was only produced in Russia, and you could not, you literally could not make it up, like, all right? Like Ukraine physically didn't have them. Thermobaric charges in scale, I would say, we also faced during the full-scale Russian invasion. So primarily the biggest threat in the beginning was artillery, aviation, missile strikes. Again, depending on where you are, because in the frontline city, if you are within 40 kilometers from the front lines or from the Russians, then you are under threat of artillery strikes, long-range artillery strikes involving things like Uragan, Smerch, and other Russian multiple launch rocket systems. Those have a really long range. If you are somewhere in the rear, in a city like Kyiv, for example, the biggest challenge, the biggest threat is, of course, either a ballistic missile strike or cruise missile strike. Both are nasty. I would say that ballistic missile strikes are more dangerous because you don't have much time to react. The missile flies really fast, and for example, I think something like 500, 600 kilometers, 700 kilometers, it makes this distance in just a couple of minutes, and you don't have much time to react. And if we're talking about cruise missiles, Russians need some time for those missiles to reach the target. Because, for example, in case of Ukraine, they would sometimes fly all the way from Murmansk and south to the Caspian Sea. And from there, they would launch those missiles. And again, it would take them like 45 minutes, for example, to reach Ukrainian border. And then they would spread and go towards their targets that were programmed. So cruise missiles, yeah, you have opportunity to basically react. We will talk about this a bit later. What we faced in 2024, 2025, you probably already understand. We faced the threat of drones, and we're talking specifically about kamikaze drones. Those drones were not really widespread. They were not really popular earlier, right? Iran used it, but we never saw them flying over a European country. And in 2023, 2024, all that escalated eventually, and we faced the growing challenge of those strikes. This type of warfare is something completely new to NATO troops. It's new to the world, and specifically to the NATO troops. Russia and Ukraine are currently leading countries in terms of drone warfare. The United States, unfortunately, even though they developed such drones as Switchblade and stuff like that, but United States Army, neither United States Army nor any of European armies don't have even the basic level of knowledge. They kind of know what the drones are, right? But they don't know what the warfare looks like. And if you are a smart officer, if you are a smart commander, of course, you will be studying this a lot, because if we are talking about all the upcoming wars that will follow, they will involve more of unmanned vehicles, unmanned flying devices, swimming devices, and stuff like that. Most of them, of course, will be carrying a charge. And of course, they will involve a big amount of drones, because as Russians understood, the more drones you have, the less air defense your enemy can use against you. And of course, if your enemy spends a lot of money producing anti-air missiles, while your drones cost just a fraction of that, of course, you will win this fight. So basically, at this point, I'm just stating the reality the way it is. United States are not prepared for the drone warfare. European armies also are not prepared for the drone warfare. They need more time to understand this. They need more investment into reforming according to the new rules of the war. But if they want not to just be prepared for it, but also win this war, they need to invest more into developing their own weaponry and their own measures. So their drones must be even cheaper than, for example, Russian drones. But again, it's a completely different thing. So at this very moment, we are facing a completely different type of war. Russians are using less ballistic class cruise missiles. They use 400, 500 drones at a time. And for example, tonight in Ukraine, people are expecting approximately 500 drones from Russia, because those sort of messages we are receiving basically every single day, what to expect more or less, what our intelligence is telling us. And tonight there will be 1,000 drones flying at Ukraine or around that. Missiles are used as well, but at the same time, they're not used at the same scale as they were used, for example, in 2022, when Russians would shoot like 70 missiles at a time. The main reason for that is, of course, Russia is depleting its storages, and also Russia has to push and throw everything it has against Ukraine, because there's nothing more important for Russians than killing Ukrainians at this very moment. Nothing at all, not future of their kids, nothing. And also, they lack parts, they lack components, because usually they were buying those components from Western countries. There's plenty of components built on the West, even today found in Russian drones and Russian missiles, but of course the Russian capacity of obtaining those parts and those components is much lower today than it was in 2022 and of course before. Besides that, Russia has to stockpile its strategic resource that it depleted quite a bit by striking Ukraine. And there is again a big problem, and also they only have a single factory for producing ICBMs and things like the weapon of mass disinformation called Oreshnik. So they only have a single factory producing those, and they built like 12 a year, 10 a year, maybe in best case. When the war starts in your country, you will experience it in a different way based on where you are at this point. So if you are in the frontline city, situation there will be a bit different from situation, for example, in the rear. Western Ukraine cities like Lviv, Uzhhorod, Mukachevo, Ivano-Frankivsk, they rarely had Russian missile strikes, they rarely seen Russian drones, while Kyiv was hit pretty actively actually. And 2023, there were not many strikes on Kyiv because our anti-air missiles were we were rich with those missiles. And also our air defense was pretty thick. Currently, the situation is, of course, a bit different. If you live in the frontline city and the war starts, the frontline city means that your city is located in the close proximity to the front lines, not necessarily right on the front, doesn't happen like that, because if Russia is invading your country, obviously they cross the border and then they move towards your city using roads, and they die in big numbers, and then they change their strategy and do it a bit smarter, all right? Because experience shows, the practice shows that it always happens like that throughout history, because they suck. But they have to make this way from the border towards your city that is located nearby. And what you will experience is most probably you will experience artillery strikes, you will of course experience drone strikes, and the drone strikes specifically will be hitting your infrastructure. They will be hitting your civilian infrastructure, civilian facilities. I'm talking kindergartens, hospitals, and malls, big trade centers. So if you have some sort of plan of evacuation, never publish it publicly in the social media, never disseminate this information. Why it's important? Because Russians will collect this information to strike precisely those very locations. In 2022, it was precisely the advice that Ukrainians received from Syrians, from people who lived in places like Aleppo, who said never share information about like centers for gathering refugees or like internal refugees. Never share this information outside. Again, considering official establishments. At this very point, I'm talking about official establishments. They're not supposed to share this information in the social media or officially somewhere, because Russians will be collecting this information to basically strike those targets and eliminate as many civilians as possible, because Russians do that. This is the way terrorists basically wage the war, right? The way they hit the drama center in Mariupol and many other places, mall in Kremenchuk, mall in Kiev, and many other places. Children's hospital on my birthday, basically. That is very important to remember. Also, it's very important to remember where your bomb shelter is located. I don't know about other countries. Here in Germany, for example, we have alarms, air alerts tested from time to time. We have those sirens, just like in Ukraine, and they're being tested. You receive an SMS notification about that. Besides that, you should know where to hide. You should know where is a safe place in the vicinity of your house. It's crucially important to remember because when there is an airstrike, when there is a missile strike involving ballistic missiles, for example, you will only have maybe several minutes to react. Also, especially if you live in a frontline country, frontline city. Also, if artillery, for example, is prepared to launch their shells at you, I'm talking about the multiple launch rocket systems, you also will not have a lot of time to do that, to react. So you gotta know where your bomb shelter is located. If there is no bomb shelter within 500 meters from your house, you gotta find a place where you can hide yourself and together with your family, your pets, if you take them with you. You gotta find such place. It can be a basement. If you have your own basement, you are so lucky, because you will have 24/7 access to your very own personal bomb shelter, which is incredible. Of course, basements are the best option. Preferably, you have to find some kind of shelter located under the ground. Why so? Probably you understand why. All right. By the way, on the UATV, just today we published a video dedicated to the threat of drones, what to do in case your city, your town, your settlement is attacked by Russian drones. This information will be specifically important for people from Poland. If you sit there and go like, come on, dude, guys, please check out footage from those houses that were ruined by Russian drones in Poland, and don't laugh, because this stuff is incredibly important in terms of your own survival, your own and your family. I don't really care if you're like cursing me right now, saying you are escalating, the people are scared. I really don't care. You gotta prepare and you gotta have your emergency backpack. That's like, if you don't do that, I won't blame you. Please don't blame me either if something bad happens. All right, bomb shelter. As soon as there is an air alert, you hear the siren. Siren will not save your life physically, right? You yourself can save your life and the life of your loved ones. So first thing you gotta do is you gotta go to the bomb shelter. How much time will you spend in the bomb shelter? It depends, but in most cases only just a couple hours. maybe 4 hours max, depending on what is flying at your city, at your town at this very moment. Maybe that's just artillery, maybe there will be several artillery barrages that will last for maybe a couple hours, maybe half an hour. Again, it depends. Generally speaking, artillery barrages, in case there is a good counter battery measure in your location, they will not last long, because Russians will basically shoot their artillery and withdraw their self-propelled artillery vehicles or their howitzers, because they understand that there will be response. So it's not like they're just planting their howitzers and just shoot for like 3 hours straight. It's not like that. So you gotta be prepared as a civilian to withstand several hours in the bomb shelter, and to make it more convenient and more safe for you, of course, you gotta have your very own emergency backpack. Oh my god, I have such flashbacks from Ukraine, from 2021, as I'm saying this, because I was sitting like this, wearing like hoodie actually, and I was saying the same, only in Ukrainian language, to my Ukrainian citizens. What should you have in the emergency backpack? First of all, you gotta have your documents, you gotta have your important documents like your passport, registration. If it burns or if it's lost and you are afraid of this, right, you better keep them in your emergency backpack. It will stay in the same spot with easy access, and you know that all of your documents are stored there, all right? So you gotta keep them in your backpack. Documents regarding your car, regarding your apartment, regarding whatever property you have, regarding your citizenship, certificates of birth, of death, marriage, divorce, all that should be stored in your emergency backpack. Trust me, unfortunately, such times we live in. Besides that, you gotta have, I would say, extra charger and extra power bank. Not those that you use every day, but specifically prepared for emergency. They should be there. Why is it so? Because if you are rushing out of your apartment together with your family, most obviously you will forget your charger in the electric socket somewhere, right? It will be plugged there and you might forget that. So you must keep separate chargers for your gadgets. It's necessary and it's actually advised to have all of your gadgets together with you in that backpack, or take them with you to the bomb shelter, because why not? There's nothing wrong about that. It's always good to keep in touch with your family, with your friends, and basically with the world, to understand what is going on. If there's Wi-Fi, for example, in the bomb shelter, then you will receive recent updates, for example, where the drones are flying at. You will receive different notifications and stuff like that. So it's important to have gadgets there. Don't neglect it. You gotta have 2 sets of thermal underwear. And speaking of underwear, I mean like this thermal shirt, undershirt, thermal pants. You gotta have 2 sets. Why two sets? Is because if it's raining outside, if it's snowing outside, if you are literally sweaty, or the worst combination that I personally hate, if you are sweaty and it's cold outside, you gotta remember the easy rule that your inner layer must always be dry, your outer layer can be wet, doesn't matter, as long as your inner layer is dry. So you gotta have 2 sets. One is on you, the dry one, the wet one, you put it somewhere to dry. Also 2 sets of socks. The rule is the same, because you can have completely wet shoes, but if your socks are dry, then it's a proper thing. If it's vice versa, that's the worst thing that can happen. Besides that, just in case of like ultra emergency, all right, it's advised to have dry spirit. We have those like tablets of dry spirit that you can set on fire, for example, in case you need it. And of course lighter, and of course you gotta check for them to work. Your usually the medicine, your usual pills, whatever you have, the medicine that you usually take, right, on a daily basis, for example. You also gotta have a separate set of that. Some snacks, snack bars, Snickers work the best. We discovered, and it's actually an experience from the war, we discovered that Snickers work really, really well in terms of delivering energy into your body, because they have both simple and complex carbs, they have nuts, they have chocolate, and basically they can charge you really, really well throughout the day. So you can have basically a pack of Snickers, just make sure that they're not expired. Don't bring any canned food with you, tin cans with like fish or whatever. You don't need that really, and also they will stink. Snickers work best. Also threads and needles, not to sew the wounds, not for that purpose, all right? For example, you are running to the shelter with your backpack and all of a sudden one of the straps breaks, right? Rips. You will not have opportunity to find a different backpack, all right? So you better take this backpack with you, and then you can fix it and fix the straps. It's very, very important to remember. Needles and threads don't take a lot of space in your backpack, but they are very, very important, and they can save you a lot of trouble. Besides that, it's always a good idea to have some kind of very, very compact sleeping bag. You don't have to have a sleeping bag, of course, because if you have to sleep somewhere, you can throw all of your stuff on yourself, including your thermal clothes, and you will keep warm for a while. But it's advised to have a backpack, a sleeping bag with you. There are different sorts of sleeping bags. Some not really expensive are actually really good, and the smaller they are, the better. All right. And there are also sleeping bags that can actually combine together. For example, if they look square, all right, or rectangular, sometimes they combine together, sometimes they're made to combine together. For example, you have two sleeping bags, you can combine them into one big sleeping bag. It's very important. For example, if you have a wife, a husband, kids, a cat, I don't know, a lizard, you can combine those sleeping bags into one big sleeping bag, and you will keep warm much easier altogether. So it's also important to know. Each of your family members should have this in their backpack separately, all right? Each of your family members should have their own emergency backpack. Why? Well, it's easy because, for example, you will not share your thermal underwear with like your 8-year-old daughter, right? Like logical. So it's better for her to have her own set of thermal underwear, thermal layer in her backpack that fits her only. So each family member should have their own backpack. Also, it's highly advised to have some sort of mat in order to put on the ground, because, for example, in Ukraine we have subway stations that are often used as bomb shelters. Before the war, I thought about it. I would walk, down the subway station and think, can it be used as a bomb shelter? Like, it was built with this in mind, but can it be used? And yeah, frankly, they make really, really good bomb shelters, actually. And they can accommodate several hundred people, if not thousands. But the problem is people sit down whatever they see. They don't bring like chairs to the subway stations. They don't have like thousands of chairs there for people. So you gotta be aware of that. And if you have a subway station somewhere not far from you, you are extremely lucky. But it also means that you better have some kind of mat that you can sit on. I remember when I went to the war, I bought myself like this huge mat. It was very thick, but then I realized that this mat is actually too big. It takes too much space. So eventually I just cut it. I turned it into a smaller mat because I realized I need like 50 centimeters to lie down on my side, and basically I will be fine. There are also mats that fold into a square. They're very, very good. They're very handy. And basically you can buy something like that. There are literally those tiny mats that you attach to your rear as well as your family members, and you can just sit if you don't want to lie down. But there are cases, for example, when the airstrike takes place at 4 a.m. and most obviously you would like to take a nap at least. So those are things are crucial to have with you. Of course, military backpack used by the soldiers is kind of similar to what you would have in your emergency backpack, because we also have threads, needles, documents, of course. But besides that, we also have a lot of different things like rubber boots. And trust me, they're good, because when you are fighting in Donbass, for example, with where the soil is basically made out of clay and coal, and the water literally doesn't go down, doesn't disappear into the ground, you may want to have those boots, all right? And besides that, of course, we have ammo, we have emergency ammo, we have different equipment, and this backpack weighs a lot. But the difference is that you, as a civilian and a soldier, you both have absolutely different missions. The mission for a soldier is to take all of his stuff, everything that he or she will need, to the position and fight there indefinite number of days and nights. Your mission is to take whatever you need, the most important things, the necessary minimum of things, and survive a couple hours. Besides that, in your emergency backpack, you gotta have, besides all of your medicine that you're taking on a daily basis or may take, you gotta have first aid kit, something small, all right? It's absolutely necessary to have a tourniquet, and also things like pills against diarrhea, pills against constipation. Don't take them together, all right? If you want to see my other episodes. And something to basically treat tiny wounds like scratches or whatever. And also there is a big advice that emerged during this full-scale Russian invasion, that you are advised to have some kind of whistle, some kind of signal device, something that makes a sound, because if, for example, the structure collapses and you remain in the basement and then the rescuers arrive, then you will use this device or a whistle. It's like a tiny thing. Basically, it doesn't take space at all. But it can signalize that you are alive and safe, and signalize the rescuers where to look for you, all right, where to find you. Those are the main things. So basically, as we understood, the emergency backpack is your necessary minimum. This is the minimum of important things that you have to have on you, and not only you, but also every member of your family, your kids, your husband, your spouse, right? And they should be stored somewhere in the location that is easy to reach. Don't neglect this, please. And also, time to time, you have to check your emergency backpack whether your medicine is expired, whether your battery, your power bank is still charged. You also gotta check out whether your snacks are good. And also, additionally, you can also have a tiny flashlight. Check out the accumulator in the flashlight if it's good, if it's working, all right? So you gotta check all those things. It's important. There is nothing worse than, I don't know, running down a dark street because of a power station or transformator was hit or destroyed, and then running into some absolutely dark building where you cannot see anything, and then trying to shine with your smartphone, and then dropping your smartphone and losing your connection to the world. So those things are crucial to have. What to do during the bomb strike? Basically, enjoy staying alive, being in the bomb shelter. Not much can harm you there. Trust me, it's much worse to stay outside on the street somewhere than in a building. Even if you're in the house, if you're trapped in the house, it's still much safer than being outside unless you are in the forest somewhere. Why? Because there are fragments, and fragments pose enormous danger for the people. People primarily killed with fragments and with debris, not with explosion itself, not with fire. However, yeah, there are such cases, but primary cause of all the lethal cases is basically fragments or debris. So that is important to keep in mind. In the bomb shelter, you gotta expect the end of the air alert. There might be an application made, for example, like we made in Ukraine. We have a bunch of applications that inform us on the upcoming missile or drone attack or when it ends. Most probably, if your country is attacked very, very fast, your country, your government or volunteers or some kind of developers will introduce such an application that you can use to stay informed on the strikes, on the upcoming strikes, and when they finish. All right. If you are trapped in the house, or for example, for some reason you don't want or you can't go outside or in a bomb shelter, or there is absolutely no bomb shelters around your areas, no basements, no pits, no holes in the ground, nowhere to hide, which is impossible if you live in a city, but let's assume that it's the case. So you should always remember about the simple rule of two walls. What does it mean? It means that between you and the drone, there must be always two walls. Preferably, you gotta move into the most central part of your house. Preferably, if this part of this room or location, if it has no windows at all. And basically in Ukraine, whenever we have an air alert, we go to the corridor, because corridor is usually a place in the central part of the apartment building, and this place is considered one of the safest. Another safest place that you can think about is, for example, your bathroom, your shower, or if you have like a bathtub, basically you can just lie down in the bathtub and enjoy staying alive. Just like a tornado, Ladybird, exactly. What else? Bathtub is really good because it can not only protect you from fragments, but also from big debris that may fall down on you because you are in the bathtub. All right. How old is she? My 9-year-old daughter spent. She's in Germany now, but she spent several weeks basically hiding or sleeping in the bathtub during some of the craziest attacks, and she survived. What else do we know? So when there is a strike in your area, in your location, you should also remember that despite your house being built in like 1948 and having like thick walls and everything else, sometimes buildings collapse, and the drones that will most probably strike this house, or a missile, of course, they carry a lot of explosives. Shahed drones carry up to 50 kilograms of high explosives. They can cause some big damage. Currently, Russians are increasing the amount of fuel on board and, of course, the amount of warheads, amount of explosives in the drone warhead. If your house is hit with a missile, nothing will save your house at all, unfortunately, and you gotta consider this fact. Missile carries 400, 500 and more kilograms of explosives. In pounds, that's like 1,000 pounds of kilograms, 1,000 pounds of explosives, and not a single structure can withstand it unless it was some kind of, I don't know, nuclear power plant built in Soviet times, all right? So you gotta consider this fact and convince yourself that you gotta go to the bomb shelter no matter what. Especially if we're talking about ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, you gotta go to the bomb shelter. Since you live in Europe, for example, you might be happier than most Ukrainians because most obviously you are protected with the most modern air defenses that even Ukraine doesn't have at this point. We're talking about the most recent modifications of Patriot systems with most recent modifications of missiles for those Patriot systems, Pack 1, Pack 2, Pack 3. And this means that, as it was proved in Ukraine, most probably all those magical and hyper supersonic Russian missiles will be intercepted eventually. So you can be sure that your air defense will react fast and you will stay alive. But we have a threat of debris, and what it means is that if this missile didn't explode completely and, for example, its warhead remained intact and it's falling down in a free fall and it's heading towards your city or your district or your city block or your house, then the impact and the result will be the same as the impact of the missile itself, because the warhead will explode, causing your house to collapse no matter what house it is. Therefore, always convince yourself to go to the bomb shelter. Now, you are caught outside. There is an attack, there is drone strikes, you can see drones flying, you can hear or see explosions, fire, smoke, missiles striking you. as soon as you understand the threat and you understand the threat is real, first of all, you gotta do is готуєш зелень до Третьої світової. Так точно, друже. На жаль, те саме, що я розповідав у 2021-му, тепер доводиться переповідати нашим колегам. A friend from Ukraine. If you're trapped outside, as soon as you understand the threat, and as soon as, for example, you hear an explosion, first thing you can do is lie down, cover your head. You gotta do that in order to survive. If you stand, if you run around during the strikes and stuff, everything exploding and burning, there's a much higher chance that you will get eliminated, all right? You will become a casualty. So first thing to do is lie down. Nothing wrong about that. Some people in Ukraine still do that. I sometimes do that when I hear a truck passing, my house and everything shakes. I do it too from time to time. Nothing bad, nothing wrong, nothing to be ashamed of. Better ashamed than dead. So that is like the minimal thing you can do. And then when you realize that there is some kind of cover, place where you can hide, or for example, a crater from an explosion, which is also it makes a really good foxhole, actually, a really good place to hide. You can move there, at least for a while. Let's talk about missiles. All right. So cruise missiles, when they fly, they make approximately the same sound as your Boeing or Airbus or a fighter jet, rather Boeing than fighter jet, depending on what kind of engine is installed. And that is the reason why I love German airplanes so much still until this day. So you will hear a jet engine in the air, and this means that you are basically safe. Cruise missiles usually don't fly at supersonic speed. They keep the speed of approximately 600 to 800 kilometers per hour, which is not supersonic, but it's fast enough. You can barely hear it approaching, but if you can hear it flying already, then it means that it's not heading towards you, all right? And you are more or less safe. Ballistic missiles you will never hear. You hear an explosion already, and basically that's it. Explosion mixed with the hypersonic boom. If we're talking about a drone, then you will hear them approaching, all right? Because drones are flying at much slower speed. They fly 170, 180 kilometers per hour, approximately in that range. And basically you can hear them. So if you all of a sudden, if you hear like a scooter or a lawnmower in the sky, that is a good indication that you gotta watch out, and preferably already start looking for a cover, because this stuff is pretty much unpredictable. It can fly above the clouds or in the cloud layer. If there's foggy weather, it can be hard to see, and of course if it's night you will not see it at all. And if, for example, you're smoking out of your window and you can hear this drone approaching, like it happened to me in 2024, the best thing you can do is go to your corridor, all right? And if you're outside somewhere, find a place to hide and save your life. If you're with somebody, of course, take your loved ones and just go. And of course, if you have such opportunity, if you're home, if you missed air alert, something like that, if for some reason you didn't react to preliminary alert indicating that the airstrike or missile strike is going to happen soon, and you are trapped and you're caught off guard by this attack, make sure that you will have your backpack, your emergency backpack with you, with all the documents, with all the chargers, with sneakers, with everything else. So this is important information that you should know. Blast radius, shockwave, shrapnel fire, TBIs, and loss of consciousness can happen and make you confused for a time. That's for sure. If you are pretty close to the explosion, you may have a contusion, you may lose your hearing for a while. If you have some really good contusion, you will start feeling dizzy, disoriented, especially with the time. And if you experience some nasty contusions, a series of those contusions, that will cause some nasty damage actually, because you will start stuttering, you will lose proper sleep and things like that, dizziness and disorientation. So it will last throughout your life. There's no way to cure it, unfortunately. And here we have Marcus, by the way, here with us in the chat. Hello, my dear friend. If you didn't see the stream with Marcus, please check it out. It's important. Backpack, MP5, ravioli, mat pack, ravioli, bro. Are you serious? Pierogi, Varanix. No ravioli. Ravioli bad. Pierogi good, right? Do you mean concussion? Contusion, shell shock, I don't know. Maybe I don't know the proper English term. Marcus, please help me with this one. In Ukrainian language, it's called contusia. Contusia or the TBI, basically, that's pretty much the same. In some cases, you have no thumbs up for ravioli bad, all right? There, Marcus confirms, Vareniki is the best. Concussion, yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Oh my God, all of my friends are here. How did I deserve this? All of my friends are here. Yeah, in German it's called Gehirnerschütterung. In English it's called concussion, just in case. In some severe cases, you can not only receive a brain damage, but you can also receive irreversible damage to your brain, and also your eardrums may rip. It's pretty nasty. Contusion is a bruise. Brain bruise equals a concussion. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I learn English together with you, my friends. Hearing loss is one of my first concussions were received at Maidan of Independence during the revolution, when a flashbang exploded, and actually because Russia supported the criminal regime of Yanukovych, they delivered some kind of flashbangs from Russia that were much stronger than those that were used by cops in Ukraine. So when the flashbang exploded, I had a tiny concussion, like it was literally not far from me, like within a meter or two. Luckily, there were no shrapnel, because back in those days, cops would attach different metal bearings, nails to those flashbangs and just throw them at people. And some people received some pretty nasty injuries from those. I was lucky, but the concussion caused me to not severely, but slightly lose hearing, and I still keep this stuff over time. It comes and goes. But besides that, I'm fine. I only lost my hair. Besides that, hearing loss, yes, that's the case, unfortunately. Brain damage caused by concussion is something unique to every person because different parts of your brain are being damaged. There are specific, not diagnoses, but specific signs that you have concussion, which is dizziness, disorientation, headache, obviously, pressure change, and stuff like that. But also, the consequence may be absolutely different because different parts of the brain are being damaged, and I think that Marcus or medicine people there in the chat might also confirm this. You basically receive... I read a paper about that. Scientists studied brains of people who had different concussions, and they said that during a concussion you receive a bunch of tiny scars on your brain. Basically your brain gets damaged and a lot of scars appear on it, and they can, I don't know, result in different ways, change your personality, make your hair disappear or grow. I don't know. Maybe you will gain some kind of supernatural abilities, different things. But because brain is involved, nobody will tell you what sort of exact damage you will receive due to the concussion. What I can say, noise cancelling headphones are extremely good. I can confirm that. So if you have an opportunity to find head cancelling headphones, of course, noise cancelling headphones, of course, it's better to have those. But again, the question is, will you keep them in your everyday's bag with you, or will you keep them in your backpack? Active headphones are better. They kind of cost something, but at the same time they cancel the sounds of explosions, shots, things like that, rapid noises, rapid sound pressure. All right. Besides that, you can hear everything else. If we're talking about mechanical headphones without any improvements, without any microphones, then you can use them, of course. But again, if you're with family or if you're in a group of people and you have to communicate, it will be kind of hard. So if you can afford, of course, you better get yourself a pair of active headphones. They have couple of mics in front of you on the frontal part, and of course they require a battery. You gotta also check if this battery is alive from time to time. Also, sometimes you can fold them so they don't take much space, and it's highly advised to have them with you as well. Regardless if you're a civilian person or a military person, this will improve the quality of your life in case there's war. I remember in 2015 I had a pair of active headphones, and they were extremely good. I would literally wear them during patrol and listen to hedgehogs farting in a tree line 500 meters from me. So they were so good. And some of the headphones that we have today, 10 years from 2015, they're even better, and they're even more sensitive, and they have even better sound quality, of course. So that's the thing. Who cares what you say, Starsky? They ban Europeans in your chat, so you're probably a Russian asset. Literally don't know what you're saying, my friend. There's a lot of people. There's Marcus, there's a lot of Ukrainians. There is Newman from Croatia. There's Germans, all right. We are all Europeans. I don't know who bans who. It's a question to me. What else can improve your life during the war? Evacuation. Often a question emerges what to do during evacuation, when to evacuate, basically, all right? So in Ukraine, for example, we have military civilian administration in every city, in every town, and they're responsible for delivering this information to the citizens. So eventually, if the situation changes so dramatically, so you have to be evacuated, it's dangerous for you to remain in the city for you or your family. Or, for example, there is a threat that this city will get not just bombed, but literally occupied or besieged. Then it's necessary to listen to those updates delivered to you by your local channels, radio channels, TV channels, internet. It's necessary to monitor those messages because they might inform you, for example, if you don't have a vehicle, if you don't have a car, but you have several family members who cannot move without help, who require help of other people. For example, you will be informed where you can go and catch a bus or some kind of vehicle to get evacuated, or where an evacuation corridor is established. So those things are usually reported as it happened in numerous Ukrainian cities, in Bucha, in Irpin included. So those that I remember, also Kherson, all sorts of cities. Kherson is an exclusion because Kherson actually was captured very, very fast. But again, Chernihiv, Brovary, many cities. You gotta wait for a message from your local authorities whether to evacuate or not. Of course, you can take this decision yourself, and if you think, all right, let's just GTFO from here as soon as possible because who knows what to expect, right? You can do that, of course, but you gotta make sure to lock your house, to lock your door, all right, to turn off your gas and electricity and everything else. I know that you're responsible people. You gotta conserve, how to say this, pressurize your apartment. For example, if you live in an apartment. I remember in Krasnohorivka 2015, a lot of people left their houses. Those who were smarter, they pressurized their apartments. They literally closed them. Some of them even used the construction foam to, isolate the door completely so it cannot be opened because they didn't know what to expect from the occupation of Krasnohorivka. It was back in 2014. In majority cases, all of their property, all of their possessions were kept there, all right, even after the occupation and liberation. People who didn't have much protection for their apartment, unfortunately, their apartments were looted by Russian thugs. And it's pretty bad. We were patrolling those areas. I saw those apartments that were looted. It was a sad picture. And we all know that Russians enjoy looting stuff. They need your toilet, they need your sink, your tap, and your air conditioner, of course. So that's regarding situation. If you hesitate whether to evacuate or not, then, of course, listen to what your local authorities say. subscribe to the community, to the Facebook page or Twitter page of your local authorities, and monitor them frequently. All right, so this must be like your duty to monitor the situation, what is happening around you, because situational awareness will save your life. During evacuation, of course, you gotta follow the commands or instructions provided by your local authorities, by the police. Police will always be there to support you. The rescuers, they will be there to help the local population. Military will be primarily there on the positions fighting against the Russian or North Korean or Chinese invaders or whoever, I don't know. Evacuation we discussed. So basically that's it. The most destructive weapons that can be used against your European city are, of course, aviation weapons in case your country or your, for example, allies in NATO, in case they fail to provide enough air defense over your country, in your sky, right? So aerial weapons are the most destructive. Things like bombs like FAB 500, FAB 3000, they are enormously destructive. They can erase buildings, apartment buildings, even big ones, and they are dangerous. Ballistic missiles and cruise missiles are also dangerous. Drones are dangerous, but not to that extent, again, because drones carry a fraction of the explosive charge compared to aerial bomb or, for example, the ballistic missile used by Russian. So that is important to keep in mind. But again, guys, drone, for example, if we take Shahed 136, it carries enough explosives to literally destroy a section of an apartment building. 40 or 50 kilograms of explosives, that is not like in the missile, all right, like a ton of explosives, but it's much, much more than in an artillery shell, all right? So keep that in mind. There are artillery shells that weigh like 20 kilograms. Drone carries 40, all right? So that's much more than in an artillery shell, and that's also important to keep in mind. What else? Балтійцям цивільним, які біля кордону, обов'язково треба евакуватись. Yeah, Vlad is saying that citizens of the Baltic states who live close to the Russian border, they should immediately evacuate as soon as the horde crosses the border. And generally speaking, I agree with Vlad, because they will move in mass. And unfortunately, in the beginning, there's a little chance that there will be some kind of power to stop that horde. So only with time, only eventually, of course. Currently, Ukraine already eliminated 5 times the army that invaded Ukraine eventually, because as you remember, not 5 times, more than 3 times the army that invaded Ukraine eventually in 2022. In the beginning, they had something between 200 and 290,000 orcs invading Ukraine. Currently, they have more than 1 million losses. And Ali, correct me if I'm wrong, but their losses crossed 1,100,000 already. So there is a good chance to celebrate. I will celebrate with Javka cake. I'm not really sure if it's good or not. I will tell you as soon as I know. And my hand shark Henry will also tell if it's good or not. I trust his taste. All right. So, if you have any questions, please let me know, because I'm here. I am literally ready to answer whatever questions you have based on my own experience and experience of my fellow Ukrainian comrades. So, please don't hesitate. Do you believe Poland would keep the Suwalki Gap open if the orcs invaded the Baltics? Russians want Suwalki Gap very, very much for obvious reasons. And I think that most probably if they attack, and I believe that looking at the map, we can see that the closest city to... Oh my God, where is it? So the closest city to Suwalki, the closest major city, is Białystok. I think that they will move towards Białystok in order to get control over the Suwalki region, especially because there is a very, very good, properly made European highway. So there is a chance that they will do that. Food time. Bridget, I would love it. I would love to have food time right now, because not food time, because I literally didn't have anything since morning. I had like a tiny pack of Eiersalat and frikadellen, all right? And besides that, I didn't have anything else. And the frikadellen were raw. What do you recommend to people who have no shelter, cellar, big walls, or any defense nearby? Rural area, stay outside or inside? I would prefer to have at least some kind of protection that looks like walls around me, because houses may collapse, of course. It's an obvious fact. Everybody knows that. But primarily, all the war, all the streets, people die from fragments. And again, it's a fact. According to statistics, more people died from fragments than people that died in buildings that collapsed. So fragments can't be stopped by the walls. If you have walls around you, you can protect yourself, you can hide there. But it's bad if you don't have any cellar, any basement. It kind of sucks. If there is some kind of shelter around you within 500 meters, within kilometer if you have a car, that also works. If it's like 5 kilometers away, may still work. You better keep that in mind, because, for example, if there is a drone strike or the cruise missile strike and it takes time for those missiles to arrive, you better keep that place in mind. If you have an air alert in the area, you can drive there and have plenty of time and opportunity to deploy yourself in the bomb shelter. If not, you better stay in your house. It's not necessarily that the orcs will be targeting specifically your house in the rural area. But unfortunately, in Ukraine, according to our experience, such cases also happen, because in Ukraine, if a missile or a debris, for example, or a drone debris explodes somewhere in the countryside, in the private sector, we call it private sector. It's where there's a lot of country houses, right, concentrated in the same location, not fields, but like country houses with orchards, and there's a lot of them. Unfortunately, yeah, we have such cases when houses collapse because country house cannot really withstand a warhead of a drone, and of course the missile itself. Does anyone remember the name of those steel table shelters some had in their homes to sleep in? I think I saw something like that, like big metal coffin, where you can hide, and frankly speaking, it's not a bad idea. Whatever can save you is good, all right? Even a bathtub. So literally, guys, Ukrainian experience is when there is absolutely nothing in your house to protect you, all right? If you don't have a corridor, then you 100% have at least a bathtub. Not 100%, like if you have a bathtub, all right, use it. Just go there, take a pillow, take a blanket, lie down, turn on the light, read something, I don't know, enjoy your time. Bathtub is like the minimal protection you can find. It's a Ukrainian experience, if not a corridor, if not in the middle of your house or your apartment. Use your bathtub. If you don't have bathtub, it's bad. Then at least find a corridor. Go to the most central part of your building. One thing that is also important to remember, so when the buildings collapse, the place that rarely collapses is like doorways, all right? So if you have a doorway and nowhere else to hide, stay in the doorway. All right, you will be more or less protected because the ceiling might collapse in the room, in the corridor. The doorway will keep you safe. Of course, if the wall is not like 5 centimeters thick. So that might help you as well. Netherlands had coal mines in the... you don't have coal mines anymore? In the Netherlands, really? Tesco shelters, any good? Tesco shelters, I don't know. Something I'm not really acquainted with. Like in the back of my head, I kind of remember what Tesco was. It was like a mall or something, but... stairs. Stairs can be also used. Just make sure that it's not the stairs that face a window, all right? Because usually when there's a staircase, there's usually a bunch of windows. So make sure it's not the stairs that face the window because of the fragments coming from outside. Tell me, does NATO have a chance to repel an attack on the Baltic states? Considering Trump's cowardly administration won't help, do the European armies have enough strength? They do have enough strength. The question is, do they have enough weaponry to withstand this attack? And the problem is that there's a lot of weaponry only produced in the United States, for example, like those Patriot systems. There are very, very good air defenses produced in Europe. IRIS-T, for example, SAMP-T is like one of the best. But the production capability is not comparable to the one in the United States, unfortunately. So will Europe have enough weaponry to withstand this attack is a completely different question. Currently, Europe is trying to help Ukraine with artillery shells, with whatever weaponry they have, but they should also stockpile it, all right? And they should choose whether to supply Ukraine more so the war stops in Ukraine and doesn't reach Europe, or whether to stockpile Europe itself and neglect Ukraine, which they, again, cannot do because it's better to stop Russians in Ukraine so the horde does not reach like Poland or Slovakia or countries like that. Hungary, of course. My government has a website telling what you should have when war starts. 20 items listed. They include toothbrush plus paste, sanitary napkins, and toilet paper. Toilet paper I would definitely recommend to take with you, not only to use it the way it's supposed to be used, but also In case you need to start a fire, you can use toilet paper as a fire starter. It's not the best fire starter, but it can do the job. The question is, like, will you really need to start fire? Maybe, because not necessarily your bomb shelter will be the bomb shelter that you keep in mind, that you are planning to go to in case of the air strike. Not necessarily this bomb shelter will be the place where you will go, for different reasons. For example, the building where this bomb shelter is located is hit, and you cannot access this bomb shelter anymore. For example, a really dumb person responsible for this bomb shelter forgot to open it for the public. Or, for example, again, the very dumb person responsible for this bomb shelter closed it from inside for some reason. Many reasons, many situations may happen, but there might be a case when you will realize that you will have to search for a different bomb shelter, and most probably you will pick some other location. So in case you're stuck there in a cold basement somewhere, or like in a cold house, and you need at least some kind of fire to warm up a bit, all right, or warm up water. For example, it's like 4 a.m. in January, all right? It's really cold outside, and you need to warm up. You will need something to start the fire, so toilet paper may work like that. Don't spend it all, because otherwise you will not be able to use the toilet paper the way it's supposed to be used. The craziest thing, I never thought about becoming a prepper, all right? I was a reckless civilian before 2014. 2014, yeah. I was a reckless civilian. Deep inside me, I still am. I don't want war. I don't really believe in prepping, because I am a child of a city, all right? I know that city will provide me, and I want this to be forever. But the cruel reality is that it doesn't work like that the whole time. And unfortunately, sometimes you lose water in your pipes, sometimes you lose gas, electricity, like we in Ukraine. Sometimes, of course, you lose fuel at the gas stations, you don't have gasoline, you don't have diesel. The LNG disappears all of a sudden because some pricks bombed your fuel storages, and there are like those kilometer-long queues to the gas stations. Things like that happen. And unfortunately, we live in such times where when you can observe Russian drones going to Poland, flying over Romania, Russian aircraft flying over Tallinn, and other crazy cases, let alone the hybrid and systematic informational warfare waged against NATO, against European countries, against the West, and against your values, basically against you, my friends. So we live in such times when we all, unfortunately, have to be a bit of preppers ourselves. And by saying this, I mean at least have some sort of emergency backpack ready with you. I will start preparing my emergency backpack probably since this week. I'm going to buy the medicine I take almost on a daily basis. I'll most probably throw some snacks there besides Snickers, because I love food. Yeah, but besides all that, I will pack the most necessary things. You can take whatever you like besides all the necessary things in your emergency backpack, but Don't turn it into like this huge, heavy bag that you cannot lift, or you need a help of other people to lift it, because this is basically something that should help you survive a couple hours, less than a day, or at least like day the most. I don't know. I don't remember if we ever experienced that, except Mariupol, of course, when we would have like artillery strikes, missile strikes, bomb strikes like 24/7 in places like Bakhmut, Mariupol, eventually, when Russian invaders were very close and they were well within the reach of Russian artillery and Russian aviation, then basically those attacks were basically permanent. But besides all that, if you don't want to evacuate, if there is no need to evacuate, if there are bomb shelters where you can hide and wait until the end of the airstrike or missile strike, then you will be safe well within several hours. Nothing bad will happen to you. So we should prepare, at least have some kind of minimal package that we will take with us. Emergency backpack for each family member, and also each family member is supposed to have their very own first aid kit, as well as their very own tourniquet, as well as their very own pack of the medicine that they take. Don't evacuate too late. It's a really good advice coming from a person who physically evacuated other people. Don't evacuate too late. And please remember about this one. If there is a possibility that your town may get captured or surrounded, and the front line is moving closer and closer, and you start experiencing things like artillery strikes already in your city or in your settlement, think about moving out. Think about saving the lives of your loved ones and yourself. Your safety is the biggest priority for you, all right? I carry around emergency toilet paper sometimes. People laugh until they need it. I completely agree with you, my friend. That is something I carry with myself as well. Toilet paper roll, soaked hand sanitizer burned for hours. Oh my god, don't remind me about this one, please. I still have like those traumas since 2016. 20 kilometer close enough to go, yeah, something like that. 20 kilometers. I think that is even like, that would be too close for me personally, I think, if I was a civilian. But listen to somebody who actually evacuated people, who actually knows what it feels like, all right? Where is the donation for Starky's former unit? So the link is supposed to be there, all right? Let me check out if I included this in the description, because I really hope I did. So there in the description, when you open the description, you can see HARMATA Volunteers support legendary HOSTOMEL Brigade. That is the link for the donations if you want to support my brigade. Guys, please don't send me donations for my brigade on my PayPal, because I don't really follow what is coming to my PayPal. Sometimes I reply to people sending the funds like 3 days later, sending you my biggest gratitude, but sometimes it takes time for me to check it out. So please use the link provided in the description below. That is the link for the foundation of the volunteers that help my brigade with the drones and everything else. As Marcos says, yes, please support my guys. I gotta share something with you, my friends. I gotta share something. So the other day I learned that several of the guys, not only from my brigade, but from my very, very own company, my infantry company, I served in 2016. And even from my very, very own platoon are in Europe. So some of those guys were injured, some of them closed their contract, finished their contract before the full-scale invasion, and they moved here. I didn't know about that. But generally speaking, turns out that several guys that I know, and we were really good friends, and we still are really good friends, they are basically like my neighbors. So I started like connecting to the guys that I knew from my infantry company and my very, very own infantry platoon. And turns out that they're here, and I'm really, really happy to learn that they're fine. Unfortunately, a lot of them are not with us anymore. Remember, I told you the story, and Marcus, we talked about it in the previous stream, about the guy who we called him like freaking gypsy, that dude who always looked, like dirty and stuff. But he was a good cooker, very young guy. I think he was like 23 years old. Unfortunately, he died in 2022. I didn't know about it. But he was not in the brigade already. He was in the territorial defense battalion somewhere. And unfortunately, he died in 2022 in his very, very own town. So yeah, I didn't know about that. I literally learned about it this morning, and yeah, we literally talked about him just several days ago. So yeah, but regarding other guys, I know that some of them have like some very, very nasty concussions. The guy who was driving not my specific BTR in the platoon, but he was among the drivers of the BTRs that I knew. Highly educated guy from Lviv. People from Lviv, even those that are not highly educated, but they behave as if they are, So his BTR was hit, and he had some severe concussion, and sometimes he doesn't understand if he walks down the street of Denmark or he's still driving his BTR. He has those switches of reality, and it's kind of nasty, but as far as I know, at this very point, he's okay. He's also in Europe here. And hopefully I will make a small trip in the nearest future, and hopefully we'll meet as well. It's such I just cannot tell you what it means to me to learn that the guys I know, that the guys I communicated with, the guys I respected so much, that they're alive, even though some of them have some severe injuries, unfortunately. So good to hear you're having a bit of fun with you. Absolutely, genau. Hopefully next week we'll meet some of the guys, and I'm expecting this so much, as if he was like my family member. I shit you not. When I served in my infantry company, how many years was that? Like 3 years, I think. So within those 3 years, or 2 years, 2 or 3 years. So since 2016 until 2019, but including 2016. Despite the fact that as a sergeant, I was always with my guys, all the time. All right, I would literally just hang out with them, even though I wasn't supposed to do that, but I was a bad sergeant, so I would hang out with them as if we are the same caste of people, all right? Which is like illegal if you're a sergeant. So I would hang out with them. I would spend most of my time with them. I would do push-ups with them. I would run with them, all the PT, everything. But despite that, we never had a drink together in several years. I would never go with my guys. I would never have a drink with them. I would never even like have kebab whenever we had a vacation or we would return from a deployment back home. And you know, when you're in this big truck and you're going home and everybody's like anticipating, all right, everybody's celebrating, and they go like, guys, we gotta drink like pigs for 3 days straight. You're like, yeah, of course, and they go, Sergeant, let's have a beer after we're home. I'm like, yeah, of course, no problem. Never. I had beer with my friends, and actually my friend Serhiy Kishkin, who died in Bakhmut, we planned to have kebab together, but unfortunately we never did. And the reason for that is literally because I would spend so much time with them, so eventually I would just vomit seeing their faces, you know, like, it's okay if we are on the deployment, it's okay that we spend time together, we're family. Okay, zero questions. But when we're home, when I have vacation and I want to literally spend some time on my own, I want to close into my tiny shell, all right, because it's really, really heavy. It's really hard to be, you know, like extroverted for such a long period of time. So I need to close myself into my tiny shell for a while and, you know, grow some of my energy, restore my levels and open my chakras and stuff like that, restore my mental condition. I don't want to see those ugly faces, lovingly ugly faces. I don't want to see those guys at all. All right. I want to spend these 14 days that were given to me by the state on my own or with like friends I haven't seen for like half a year, you know. So I would prefer, you know, seeing those guys. All right. It's like your job and your personal life must be held separate. Same with like army, your family and your friends. They must be kept separate. Army, you also have friends in your army, but they're different type of friends, all right? I don't know how to explain it. Eventually, you know, even though you like hanging out with those guys, with civilian people, so much, and they have so many interesting things to tell you and to teach you and stuff like that, but the guys from the army, of course, they understand you much better because when you talk to them, you don't really have to explain a lot of things that like they would not understand, right? So it's kind of much easier. I cannot really tell. Some people find their best friends in the army environment, right? In the military environment or in the environment where they serve. And thank you so much, Music Man. Thank you, brother. I'll keep that in mind. Some people find their friends in like civilian environment specifically, you know, because again, if you spend so much time in the army with the same guys over and over again, you cannot even find time to be, you know, alone. So I don't really like, I don't know. I think it depends on your specific connection with this person. And it's not necessarily that people in the army are better than people in the civilian life or vice versa. It really depends on your connection, on your interests, on how much you enjoy being together. Because, not necessarily you not necessarily have to like people in the army, and not necessarily people you serve with are good people, because there are all sorts of people there. So it's like that. But yeah, it's I'm a retired police officer. Thank you so much for your service. Again, take police, all right? Police, army, not school, but let's say university, a power plant, a factory, a bakery, a McDonald's or KFC, whatever you prefer, Burger King. Wherever you go, any community is always a tiny reflection of your whole society. And there's as many good people in this community as there are bad people. It's like that anywhere. And only in Russia, the concentration of motherfuckers is like the highest in the world. I don't know why. I have no idea. And the worst thing is that, our Russophobia is not enough. War forever, what personal life? The idea is dangerous here. I absolutely agree with you, and nobody wants war. Literally, I don't know any sane person who would say that they enjoy war, besides special forces. Those crazy people, like, they are unique, all right? They were born like that. But besides them, I don't know who literally enjoys the war. If I had chance to trade my both kidneys and liver and all of my internal organs for this war to never happen, I would do that without even thinking a second. But we didn't choose the war, unfortunately. And my friend, it doesn't matter if you like thinking about the war, if you don't like thinking about the war. War doesn't care about your opinion, unfortunately. Individuals like internationally wanted war criminal Putin, for example, he didn't care whether Ukrainians wanted war or not. He didn't even care if his own people wanted war or they didn't. He just invaded, and eventually our life just changed without any preparation, all right? Without any expectation that it will change. And frankly speaking, life changes very, very fast. With the first shell that flies into your house, and like, you have things around you, right? You have your phone, you have your computer, you have your table, you have your expensive computer for gameplay, you have your bed and stuff like that. Things that make you feel convenient, all right? Things that improve your life. And then with the first shell that strikes your building, and second ago you had a good civilian life, everything was perfect, and at this current moment you see your house full of fucking concrete pieces, full of fragments, full of your broken glass. Your bed is full of this concrete dust, debris everywhere, and you ask yourself, what the fuck just happened, And this is the moment when you realize that, unfortunately, you have to accept the idea that war doesn't care whether you like it or not, whether you expect it to come or you don't expect it to come. War doesn't care. And terrorists who start such wars, they also don't care what you think. If they decide, it will start, it will come, unfortunately. And if they decide to send drones to your country, Poland, Romania, or Croatia, for example, like it was in 2022, then they will do that. And they will send those drones, and they will send those missiles. And your life will change as well, very, very fast. At some point, we find ourselves in the situations, for example, when, again, we don't have running water. What will you do if you don't have running water and you literally cannot flush your toilet? What's your action? Think about that. In Ukraine, we know what to do. Must have been a nightmare. I think for civilians it kind of was. Like, you know, I'm telling you about the civilian experience of living in a war, but I'm telling you only practical things, all right? I'm not really telling you the psychological aspect of that, because when the war arrived to Ukraine, when the full-scale invasion started in Ukraine, we didn't look at it with the eyes of civilian people, because I already served 8 years, and my comrades served 8 years. We got used to seeing ruins and death and stuff like that, and all that grime. Civilians were not accustomed to that, and that is why it was like such a big shock to those people, to civilian people, to the citizens. We were not really impressed, all right, even when that caliber missile exploded in the orchard in my base. We looked at that, we saw that stuff many times before in Donbass, all right? So we were not impressed or shocked or like caught off guard. That is why I cannot really tell you what you will feel as a civilian. Will you be scared 100%? But again, my friends, we're returning to what we started this video from. We started that the biggest things that we are afraid of, we fear them only because we don't know what it feels like, what they feel like, what they look like. We are afraid of unknown, all right? And when you learn more about those things, you start not maybe like you will not be afraid, but you will at least know how to act. And if you know how to act, you stay alive, you have higher chance to survive, and basically you know what to do. You're not panicking, and that is very important. It's always the civilian population that suffers the most during wartime. They do, all right, I agree on that, but they also have the most fun during the wartime. Because during wartime, me as a soldier, I would spend like months at the positions, feeding mosquitoes and eating some shit, you know, while my civilian friends during war would go and have like sushi, all right? So on the other hand, of course, as a military, I would have a much bigger, not like even bigger chance to survive, but okay, if I'm hit, at least I don't regret, all right? And I know that I can do something. If they try to hit me, I can try to hit them. But if you are a civilian and you're hit with a drone and boom, you're like you don't exist anymore, that's kind of unfair, all right? Being a soldier is kind of fair play. Being a civilian, being hit by Russian terrorists, being hit by drones and bombs and things like that, like in Aleppo, like in Mariupol, right? That's unfair. So I agree on that. Civilians suffer the most, but they have the most fun as well. And I also remember 22 when we didn't get more than 20 liters of diesel at the gas station. You remember that, my friends? Because I remember that as well. And I remember there were such like severe strikes in the very beginning. I think it was like April, May. June, July, the situation was resolved. But like April, May, oh my God, it was so bad. 20 liters of diesel max. Diesel became the most expensive fuel in Ukraine. It was the most cheaper than diesel. We only had like LNG, but generally speaking, everybody preferred diesel. And all of a sudden, I found myself really, really lucky having a gasoline driven car with the gas apparatus. Okay, so my car could consume both gasoline and LNG, while majority of Ukrainians and like both civilians and military only had diesel cars. So I found myself extremely lucky back then. Wildlife suffers a lot too. I can agree on that. Poor pets, and not only pets, also wild animals, they all suffer. Unfortunately, the damage delivered to living creatures such as birds, especially at night, because again, primarily birds that we see during the daytime, they sleep at night. And when we have fireworks, things like that, celebrations, New Year celebrations, Day of Independence, all the fireworks, the birds are suffering really, really hard. And in Ukraine, they suffer even more than that because majority of the drone attacks, missile attacks, they unfortunately happen during the nights. So they are extremely destructive during. They're extremely destructive towards the animals as well. Civilians can run, soldiers cannot. I agree on that. I don't know if it's proper thing to speculate. Like who suffers more, soldiers or civilians. Me as a soldier, I suffered. All right, I really did. I cannot say that I regret the choice of becoming a soldier and literally become the longest serving volunteer, all right, in the Ukrainian army. 10 years being a volunteer in the army. That's like crazy. I don't regret a single day. But at the same time, I can confirm soldiers suffer. Trust me, they really do. Chemical attacks happen as well. This will be a really, really good idea for the next stream, my friend, because there are many, many thousands of cases already officially documented in Ukraine of Russians using chemical weapons. So I will be talking about those as well. And that's an actual threat. That's for real. It's not like fantasy movie. It's for real. This is something that our guys experience, by the way, since 2015. Since the defense of the Donetsk airport. There are testimonies, all right? There are testimonies from people who fought during the Abkhazian war in Georgia that Russian army was actually using chemical weapons. I think Iprit, I don't know how you call it, Iprit, we call it Iprit in Ukraine. So they used those already in like 1992, 3, so already back in those days. Hey, Mops is gone. Hey, how are you, my friends? I hope you're fine. So let me just check really quick if there are questions. What do you think an attack on Denmark would look like? So most probably there will be drone strikes, of course, and we're talking about hundreds of drones. There will be missile strikes, and eventually, most probably, again, because Russians have fleet that allows them to board a lot of troops and transfer them across the sea. Russians can use either fleet or their airborne troops, those that remained, to basically deploy their troops on the Denmark territory and take the administrative buildings and strategic objects under control. So that's one of the variants. Like they did in HOSTOMEL. They came to HOSTOMEL and basically a lot of them died there, but it was nasty. Is it good for a civilian to own a gas mask? Absolutely. Like it's a really good idea, actually. Not only you can use your gas mask to save your life, but also it will bring a lot of new experience in your sexual life. So you can also think about that. Besides that, you can train in your gas mask. If you work out, it works really fine. And also, if you have like this big, beautiful beard, or you like stubble and things like that, generally speaking, role play is the only thing you can use the gas mask for, because if you have like a beautiful beard from a barbershop, your mask will not save you. That's another thing to consider. What else? Ukraine has a moon base. Ukraine has a moonshine base, that's for sure. You mean lying down is better than running for shelter when there is an attack taking place in your area and there are explosions? If you hear an explosion, which you were not prepared for, all right? First thing you should do, you gotta lie down. Instead of like running somewhere like crazy, first thing you should do is lie down, wait, understand the situation, because is it a single attack or it will be a barrage? How long will it continue? You gotta understand this for yourself. And when it's more or less safe, find a shelter using your eyes, all right? Find something that can serve as a shelter, a pit, some kind of deepening in the ground, preferably a channel, a ditch, anything. Go there, preferably fast, and there you can wait until the rest of the attack is finished, if there is a rest for this attack. So that's the thing. The ballistic missile flies really, really fast. Also, the reactive shells for Russian multiple launch rocket systems, they're also hypersonic, and also tank shells, howitzer shells, not really, but tank shells are. So those you cannot really hear, and when they shoot or when it's landing, you can hear the explosion straight away. You cannot hear any preliminary sounds, all right? So you can be not prepared for that, for that kind of attack. You hear explosion, you lie down and keep yourself low, keep your profile low, as lower to the ground as possible. And use this opportunity to understand the situation, what is happening around you. So that is your algorithm of action. For how long will it last before it escalates into World War III, in your opinion? As soon as you can see direct clash between NATO armies and terror Russia or China, you can definitely tell that the World War III has started officially, because non-officially it's already there. Non-officially, we have Russia, we have Iran, we have North Korea, we have China involved in the war against Ukraine and hybrid war against all the NATO members, and also informational warfare that extends past NATO. And we already have cases of Russia striking Poland and Romania and other countries, by the way. So non-officially, the World War III already started, involving different countries like North Korea, Iran, Russia, Romania, Poland. It's already going. That is basically one of the primary reasons why I even decided to make today's stream. What's your rank now? I'm a captain in the military. I'm a reservist, but my rank is a captain, and in the police we had different ranks. So in the police I was a sergeant, but we all understand that a sergeant in the police is a completely different thing from the sergeant in the military. However, I might be wrong. I don't know what it looks like in your police, all right? Because I was a sergeant in the Ukrainian police probably a year before we even established the proper police academy, all right? So it was like this old Ukrainian police in the process of being reformed. It was something crazy, but it was kind of cool. About wiping your... Oh, that's a deep philosophical question, my friend. That's a really, really deep philosophical question. To wipe or to wash? Like, washing is, of course, more efficient, I think. It requires more resources. And it's like, look, it's like comparing AK to AR-15, all right? So AK is kind of precise, but not as precise as AR-15. AK is simple. You can use it without oiling it or without taking care. After your AK for a bit, for a while, you clean not the pump, how you call this stuff in English? Oh my God, рамка затвора с поршнем. So you clean it like literally in the sand, things like that. It's a completely simple thing. Yes, but AK was made for an ape. You need an ape, right? You give this ape an AK, and in 3 days the ape masters using the AK. All right, it's not a complicated thing. It's like very, very easy. Now, if you're not an ape, if you're a smart, more developed sort of primates, right, like human, you need something better, something more precise. And here you have AR-15. AR-15 is much lighter, much more convenient, much more precise, and of course it's much more complex. So you will spend a bit more time than 3 days, like in mastering the AK with your friend Kong, right? Or whatever, Kong the ape, right? You will spend much more time, but you will master something more improved, something better. And I think the case with like wiping or washing is basically the same, because one thing is brutal and primitive, the other thing requires some additional resources, some additional approach, because like in the forest you will not find literally like a pipe with running water, right? You can use paper easily, but it's efficient, it's effective, it's much better than wiping, but it's not always available. All right. When evacuating, choose car, bicycle, or horse. So it's like, take a car, put your bicycle in it, and literally go. Horse, give your horse to your local farmers, they will need it. Or you can sell your horse. I will be talking about food in just a second, but you can sell your horse to, like, oh my god, animal lovers will kill me. Will you grow some hair for us to see before it goes gray? It's already gray. That is why I'm not growing my hair anymore at all. Donkeys, yeah. You can sell your donkey to the army, man. They will buy it. AK is like old Soviet toilet paper, the one that scratches and chafes your ass. You see, there is not really such thing as Soviet toilet paper, because Soviets snatched the toilet paper from the Western countries. They actually bought the factory for producing the toilet paper from their Western enemies and built it after Gagarin went to space, according to the facts. Did you have to learn coding when you had to do broadcasting? What kind of bandwidth did you have? Oh, right. My current... So, first of all, I don't have to learn coding in order to do broadcasting, all right? There are apps that allow you to do whatever you like. And without coding, you just need to understand, like, the principles of this, the broadcast. So if you have something better than 50 megabits per second, that is fine for broadcasting. Besides that, I would not recommend anything else. My first deer rifle was my great grandpa's old war rifle, lever action, open sight 303. Oh wait, not lever. It was bolt 308 was lever. Ah, that's nice. That's nice. It's always good to have something. В Совку не було туалетного паперу, були газети. Vlad, I talked about it actually. Vlad reminds me that there were no toilet paper in the Soviet Union, there were newspapers actually, and he's correct. But the very, very first toilet factory that was opened in the Soviet Union emerged something like 8 years after Gagarin went to space. So Gagarin was basically on Earth preparing to go into space, and he fucking wiped with newspapers in the Soviet Union. Lever actions are kind of fun though, yeah, especially if you have like Harley Davidson, all right, and like black leather jacket. Yeah. Tow the horse box behind the car so that friends, you remind me of this crazy story that happened in HOSTOMEL. In HOSTOMEL, we actually had, I think I told you about that one. We had like horse stables, and they burned, Russians burned the horse stables, a lot of horses burned inside. And in Bucha, there was a guy who kept horses in those stables, and he only saved like 2 of them. I remember I met them in Bucha like 1 month after the occupation. Several days after liberating Bucha, I met him in Bucha. And he had this like attachable truck for transporting horses. And he was like walking around his area, like looking around. We talked, I think I was with journalists, I don't remember already, but we talked and he told me that story, and I realized that I love animals very much, but at the same time you should understand that animals they will also suffer if there is a war. So if something unfortunate happens to you, your animals will be locked, for example, in the house, or they will not be able to feed themselves, or they will run away, or something else, I don't know. It's always a choice we have to make, that we have to take care after our pets, but at the same time, if there's a war, they will become, I'm sorry, but a burden, all right? And we have to accept this. We have to understand that we will have to carry this burden with us because they will rely on us. Their survival will rely on us, how much we can protect them. And for example, that guy from Bucha with 2 horses, like, I think about it, he saved 2 huge animals, all right? And after the Bucha was liberated, he brought them back. Of course, he had much more horses that died, unfortunately. But what kind of effort it actually took him to save them? It's crazy. I don't know how he did that. So yeah, so that's the reason why I'm not really keeping home pets here at this moment, because I don't know. I miss Fucha though. I miss Fucha. If there was an evacuation, I would rather evacuate my animals than myself. You would have to evacuate with your animals as well, because they depend on you. They rely on you. Their survival is depending on you. I would never involve animals in human wars. Absolutely, my friend. But again, animals don't choose the war. Like, nobody chooses the war, actually. Only the aggressor does, all right? We don't choose. When the war starts, the war doesn't care about our choices. War doesn't care about anything, unfortunately. And This is something I really want people to understand, and not to expect this, but to be prepared, be conscious about this. Don't know how you're supposed to feed your armies without involving animals. Oh my god. The food topic starts in 3, 2, 1. So I don't know, nothing to brag about, seriously. I didn't eat today at all. I committed violent crime of not eating properly, and I cannot be forgiven. So, but I literally didn't have much time to do that, unfortunately. My dear friends, with that, I think it's a good time to feed myself and Henry the cat shark. It's a cat shark, by the way, if you didn't know. The other day we've been to a sea world, and we found a shark that literally looked like the one that we saw, like the real one. All right. So we will keep this creature with us instead of a cat. All right. Have I planned my ice cream flavor? I gotta think about it. Maybe if I'm like too hungry, I'll just go to like a gas station and buy myself something good. Tell us more, operator. Starving. I don't really know. I don't know what to brag about. I have like kotlets, right? Kotlets I have, which I will probably start eliminating in like 5 minutes. All right. But before I do that, I would like to say thank you so much, my dear friends, for staying with me tonight, for watching my channel, for being aware, and for being conscious. Because if you ask yourself such questions like what it looks like, to have war in my country, it means that you have a really, really good sense of awareness of the situation. All right. So I would like to say big thanks to all the members of my channel, everybody who helps to keep my channel running. I appreciate it very, very much. Thanks to everyone who donates on the PayPal. Thank you so much. And also big thanks to the moderators. Big thanks to everyone there in the chat. Marcus and Paul and hey, Mopsy. And also Ellie and Katie and Newman, my dear friends. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see you later. I will be eating, and I will eat a lot. I promise you that. Bye-bye.